Welcome to UAP Truth 33. I'm John. I'm your host. Today I got a good one for you. There seems to be a lot of activity, a real push for disclosure. I mean, an actual push. David Grusch was on a news program. People are going on Newsmax, News Nation, CNN, which usually doesn't cover it, has also been covered. Dan Farah's been making the rounds on the podcast circuit, also on the news, late night shows. And apparently, this movie, The Age of Disclosure, is um, pretty groundbreaking when you think about the things that they're saying. Where they're talking about actual bodies, actual recovered craft. Also, a situation where a UAP landed at an Air Force base. Non human intelligences, aliens, got out, had some type of interaction with the base commanders, which I find fascinating. And it's kind of like that President Eisenhower rumor when he disappeared and they said he was at Holloman Air Force Base and that he was meeting with aliens. Could this be what they're talking about? So I want to show you guys some clips, let you guys decide for yourself what you think it is. Of course, I always try to keep a healthy amount of skepticism. So it's going to be a great show. So stick with me. I'll be right back.
Welcome back to Special Report. Tonight we continue our series looking at unidentified anomalous, say that easy, phenomena, what many people still call UFOs. UAPs. Last week we spoke with the director of The Age of Disclosure. It's a new documentary out about a suspected government cover-up over UAPs for decades, which debuts tonight in select theaters around the country, is also available on Prime Video. It's powerful. It features testimony from 34 former and current government officials, including witnesses who have testified before Congress. Earlier, we spoke with another whistleblower who is now a congressional task force member on the UAP subject.
Came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human.
Well, let's get some insight into the UAP, or UFO, it used to be called, controversy, and what Congress is trying to do about it. Joining us now, retired Air Force Major David Grusch, who has been a whistleblower on the subject of UFOs, UAPs, and government transparency. He's a special advisor now to the House UAP Task Force. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on, Brett.
So since then, people say, where is the evidence? What's happening? Why don't we know more right now, almost 2 years later?
Well, certainly the last administration didn't help, and my hearing, of course, was during the last administration, and they were not exactly super transparent on this issue, unfortunately. But now that the task force has been created, I've been able to, guide the members within the boundaries of what they're actually cleared for.
When people look at this, they look online, they say, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of people talking about encounters. There's a lot of people talking about videos, and we've seen a lot of that. Can we just cut it down to, you believe that we have encountered alien beings and that they've come to Earth and that we know about it as a U.S. government?
That seems to be the case. I don't like to characterize necessarily where they came from. They're definitely some kind of non-human sentience, but it is true, believe it or not, we've recovered the vehicles. And we actually have physical proof, and I was actually partially cleared into some of those activities. It was beyond oral testimony provided to me. I actually had partial access to the data and actually read the intelligence reports resulting from those programs.
Like with your own eyes,
Correct.
You saw it.
Yes.
And so when people say this is kooky, this is out there, there's nothing to back it up.
I don't speak for other parts of the government, but I can tell you NASA, which I speak for, is open and transparent with our data.
Do you believe what Mr. David Grusch said, or is he lying?
Whatever he said, where's the evidence?
What do you say?
Certainly members of this current administration are very, very well aware of this reality. Certainly the current president is very knowledgeable on this subject, and I trust his leadership on it, and I think he's assembled an A-team cabinet, and I really believe if Trump wants to be the greatest president and the most consequential leader likely in world history, he certainly has the knowledge, the capabilities, and understanding of some of these sensitive government transparency issues.
I have access, and I speak to people about it. I've had actually meetings on it. People that are very smart and very solid have said they believe there is something out there. And, it makes sense that there could be. I've never been convinced, even despite that. I just for some reason, it's not my thing.
So you think, one, he knows, and two, he's open to transparency on UAPs?
He certainly is very well informed on this issue. Leave it at that. I don't want to get ahead of what the president might want to reveal personally.
There's been a role to cover this up, you're saying, through administrations. And there have been people who have been threatened and told not to testify.
I was physically threatened even before I sent in my Intelligence Community Inspector General report under the previous administration. I actually had to go and seek legal protection that way because I was, literally in fear both professionally and in my personal life.
And when you mentioned in that testimony of recovering the pilots or remains non-human, that's something that you saw as far as the intelligence with your eyes?
Yes. And it is a very uncomfortable, even for me now, as somebody who's seen it, experienced it, even talking about it, because it's so outside a normal person's worldview to understand that there is this biological sentience that have piloted these crafts that don't necessarily look 100% like you and I.
Were there pictures? Were there?
There were. Yes, there were.
When I said from another planet or from outer space, you said we don't know where they're from. Is it interdimensional? What are we talking about?
I've talked to a lot of, I'll call graybeards on the program. That is a subject of hot debate on origin. As a guy trained in physics formally as well in my background, I leave an open mind on what the origin is. Certainly, there is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, and they could be coming from elsewhere off Earth, but I don't usually go there because I did not see that data, and I'm not conversant in the high confidence theories that the U.S. government had.
I'm not aware of any remains that the department has of any signs of extraterrestrial beings or activity or technology.
You say we, the U.S. government knows, but there are many other governments around the world. Do they know?
They have their own programs, and like I said 2.5 years ago, we have been in arms race with our peer competitors, namely Russia and China, and they have their own programs in this regard. And I was actually able to view a body of intelligence that discussed adversarial programs, and I'll leave it at that.
We've recovered things, you say, bodies and physical remains. Was there a sense that the motive of how they got here, what they were doing, was it peaceful, not peaceful?
We've seen a mixed bag of activity and motive and intent, why they're visiting. That's, once again, that gets into our assessments, not necessarily, we can't quite understand the intent of some of the sentience and why they're visiting.
All of the intelligence officials who actually investigated this for the government, like the people involved in OSAP and ATIP and UAP task force, they all started having activity at their homes when they were investigating non-human intelligent life.
Like what kind of activity?
Orbs in their houses, orbs interacting with their family, causing medical issues for family members, family members ending up in the hospital due to orb activity. Like
what issues due to orb activity?
One of the senior intelligence officials that I spoke to, and I'll let him tell his own story when he's ready, but son got extremely impacted by an orb, black and blue over his whole body, had to go to the hospital, looked like someone took a bat to his chest. I didn't include this in the film, this section, because I feel like when you get into the stuff happening in people's houses, I think it's a bridge too far for a lot of people, and you got to set the table with the base facts first, which is what my film does, and then they can open their minds to these other things. But what I found really interesting is when I would do these interviews with people and they would all talk about this activity they started having at their houses that in some cases caused medical issues. It was all after they started looking into non-human intelligent life, and their takeaway was that non-human intelligent life was looking into them because they were looking into non-human intelligent life. And they made the analogy of if a Russian spy comes to D.C. to spy on Congress, our intelligence community spies on the Russian spy. And so that was their outlook. And I thought that was really interesting and almost implies a human level of thinking,
Right, or maybe some attempt to make contact.
Yeah.
Maybe. There was a guy that I interviewed at Skinwalker Ranch who lived outside of the ranch who had an orb experience. And I talked to a few people there that were clearly out of their fucking mind and maybe on meth. But a few people that seemed pretty credible, and this guy was the most. Just a regular guy with a regular job, interesting guy, cool to talk to. He said that he's had a few weird sightings, but the weirdest one was one day in his home, this orb that was like larger than a softball, he said, but it came flying into his house and was in the living room with him, and it was interacting with him. And then it flew down the hallway and flew right through the walls.
Yeah.
It disappeared. But he said it interacted with him.
Yeah.
Like it was in front of him, like letting him know that it's there.
Almost some people say almost in a playful way.
Yeah.
And I've heard about this orb activity in intelligence officials' houses, like more times than I can remember, countless times. And the journey of this movie, I not only got to know a lot of these intelligence officials very well, but like went and spent time with their wives, with their kids, with them together. And when you see like a wife completing a husband's sentence, like they're telling you what they experienced together, it's bonkers, man. It's wild. It's like, holy shit, this happened, you know?
Yeah.
And then when you hear their kids talk about it separately, and you're like, that's literally word for word what, like, you guys are all experiencing the same thing. You have these different POVs.
It's not like the family got together with a coordinated lie.
Doesn't
They
feel like
tricked
that.
the kids into doing it. That seems
That seems a little over the top, because like, to what end, right? I didn't even, it's not like I put it in the movie, you know?
yeah.
But it's really fascinating. And the orb activity, who knows what it is, man? It could be another form of the warping of space-time in a localized area. Like, once you do that, time and space is different in that bubble. So that could be a much bigger craft inside of a energy ball that we see.
Right.
We might this might be what we see as the orb, right? It might be a transportation device. There might be a being in there. And this is just what we're seeing is what's on the outside of this warping of space-time.
Well, that's another thing that one of the eyewitnesses described that was very weird, was a craft that was small, but then when they got inside of it, it was the size of a football field.
Yeah, so that also goes with the warping of space-time. So
Yes.
Hal says in the film, this was something I was shocked that Hal said. I was really shocked. He says, the warping of space-time in the bubble explains a lot of things that at this point haven't made sense to us. And he says, like, for example, when a military serviceman goes onto a craft that looks like it's, 40 feet, and then when he goes inside, it looks like it's the size of a football field. That makes sense now, because from outside the bubble, it's one thing, and inside the bubble, it's something else.
Right.
And that's wild. Yeah, and I've heard that story a number of times from people who have never talked to each other.
Yeah, it's like we have this very simple understanding of objects and of space and the ability to move around in them. And this kind of spectacular technology, I think we kind of have to think about it just like all other spectacular technology. Like if you were around in the 1400s, you couldn't possibly imagine the concept of a nuclear bomb. It would be impossible. Or nuclear energy, or even a cell phone.
Yeah.
Now, imagine new breakthroughs happen, and now this bubble gets created, and we start to figure out how to send things to places through these bubbles, and then we realize that what's happening in these bubbles is not what you see on the outside, that it's completely warping, which is also one of the weird questions, like, why are UFOs so blurry? Well,
that answers that question, because Hal says it, and I loved when he revealed this, because like, that just checks the box, makes sense. People have trouble taking photos of UAP because they're literally taking a photo through a space-time bubble, basically,
right.
The warping of space-time. So the analogy would be like, if you go under the ocean, you take a picture of a fish, you're going to get better visibility. You're in their domain, right? You're in their environment, right? But if you go above the ocean, right, you're now in a different environment, and you try taking a photo from above the water, it's going to be all distorted and wacky looking because you're taking a photo through a barrier, another environment, right? It's the same basic logic. Like, try taking a picture of koi fish from above the water. You can't do it, right? And so that's just the simplest answer. Like, that's what they're doing. They are warping space-time in a localized area. They're creating a barrier between our environment and their environment. And when you try to take a photo through it, it's not great. It's also the reason why radar has trouble getting these things, because the radar detector, the way it works is radar is emitted towards an object, it bounces back to the radar detector, and that's how you track where it is, right? But the radar is just going around the bubble, and it's not going back to the radar detector, because it's just going around the bubble.
Yeah.
It's a different environment, right?
And supposedly we can do that now?
Well, the interview subjects clearly imply that some of the they state that some of the UAP we're seeing might be our reverse engineer technology.
Might be. And is there any theories about other potential methods of propulsion rather than just this bubble? Is anything done in a more traditional way? Is there levels of these things, like when it comes to the technological abilities?
Not that I've heard. Everyone I interviewed that was willing to talk about the technology was convinced this is what they were doing.
That they're all doing,
and it was a unifying theory. It explains everything we've ever observed, like all the performance characteristics we've observed UAP displaying.
And so the theory is that all of these advanced beings, from wherever they're from, the various different species of them, that all of them have this particular type of technology.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which, if it's the key to interstellar travel, then
it kind of makes sense. But it's like, are they all figuring out this? Are they getting it from each other? Like, is this just a natural pathway to curious, intelligent, innovative creatures that they ultimately, eventually stumble upon this technology?
Well, one of the things shared that I found fascinating was this idea that some of the craft that we've recovered and adversarial nations have recovered weren't crash crafts and weren't crafts that they caused a crash. They were crafts that just appeared outside a military base. Almost like a gift.
Yeah, and Diana Pasulka discusses them as donations.
So gifts, donations, but
yeah.
the thought, if you try to explain that, why would anyone do that? Maybe some more advanced species is trying to help advance us and try to put a carrot on a stick.
Few rabbit holes. Yeah, it's fascinating what they have actually been able to do with it. The Hal Puthoff story about the crashed Soviet craft that they found, that this remote viewer guy found, within a 3-mile radius. Located it exactly.
Jimmy Carter put a statement out about it.
Yeah.
There's audio of Jimmy Carter telling that story.
See if we can find that.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, we'll try to find that because that is pretty crazy. But
the thing that I find the most fascinating about it, aside from just it's real, is the connection with UAP. And there are people who have had UAP encounters and then end up with these abilities for remote view, and that is wild. So it's a biological effect of an encounter. Yeah, there's a big book that I've been a part of developing that's going to come out next year. It's a memoir. It's been publicized a little bit under a pseudonym. It's Scott Andrews is the name, but that's not his real name. He was a intelligence official who, as a kid, had a UAP encounter, and then late in life had a medical issue that no one could explain, and then they found that he had these amoebas in his body that should have killed him. There was no reason why he should be alive, and he had an immediate brain surgery. And after he had the brain surgery, when he was healing, certain memories started to come back, and all of a sudden he was able to remote view. And he didn't understand what he was doing. He talked to some other intelligence officials who told him, what you're doing is called remote viewing. People are trained to do that. But he was doing it like he had done it before. Like Jason Bourne, these skills are coming back, right? And around that time, he found, when he was healing, he's out of the hospital, he found a locked file cabinet in his father's office. His father had passed away. In the cabinet was a bunch of files about his life, organized by the year. And amongst the files were his enlistment paperwork in the U.S. Air Force as a child, 12 or 13 years old, which is not legal. Yeah. And then his honorable discharge at 18. And the service code was Space Intelligence Communications. And the base was the old Space Force base, straight up real documents. And then he went to his mother, who was still alive, and said, "Do you know anything about this?" And she said, "I don't know anything about it." But she's like, "Do you remember when you were a kid and you saw that UFO?" And he didn't really remember. She starts jogging his memory. She said, "You saw this UFO come out of this lake. I think it was a lake or a pond." And he's like, I do remember. She's like, "Remember you ran home and you told me and Dad?" And she said, "All I know is the next day, those men from the Air Force came to talk to you with your dad. And then I never heard anything else about it." And so where this story goes is unpacking this connection between UAP encounters and, while there's some biological effects that are bad, there are some that are also if you call it a gift, I don't know if you'd call it a gift or a curse, but
unlocking a potential.
Unlocking a potential is a great way to put it, yeah. And then the Air Force the story also unveils how on top of it the Air Force is. So they went and recruited this young kid and his father to become part of a secret program where we still don't know exactly what he did, but he was used for this ability and the service code was Space Intelligence Communications. And it's a wild story. There's a lot more to it. I could talk to you about it for like 4 hours, but it's one of the most mind-blowing stories ever. This specific person is extremely high-ranking. Like, his resume reads like a movie character. It's like, it's bonkers. He's like, at one point he was running like I don't remember the exact title, but essentially he was like running counterterrorism for North America. He's like a really high-level dude. And he ended up getting, because of his stature in the intelligence community, he ended up getting help from people in the Department of Defense to piece together this hidden past he has. And he actually is in the process of getting approved for anonymous health injury status from the Secretary of Defense.
So this program that he was involved in as a child, does he have any recollection?
No recollection. His wife was like a gumshoe detective about it. She starts calling. They see in the files there was records of days of school he missed, excused absences, for huge periods of time. I don't remember exactly whether it was weeks or months, but it was huge periods of time. So his wife calls the school and starts digging and asks, what was your policy back then? Like, would someone have had to repeat a grade if they missed this much time? And they said, absolutely, unless you had a really good reason or some sort of like serious medical excuse, like you would have been held back. He was never held back. He has no memory of missing all these days of school. His friends that he grew up with don't remember it. But there's all this documentation of it.
His friends don't remember him not being in school?
No, they inquired.
Weird, right?
Yeah, totally weird.
So has he undergone hypnotic regression?
He hasn't done that. He's been dealing with a lot of serious medical issues, like very serious, like almost dying multiple times from a lot of these. The correct word, by the way, is parasites. I think I said amoebas. Parasites. He had parasites in his body that almost killed him multiple times.
What kind of parasites?
There was 7 different parasites that he and his doctors said, his doctors told him would have killed him within a month. I don't remember the exact names. I wouldn't pretend to be a medical scientist or anything like that.
Does he have any suspicions as to how he acquired these parasites?
Yeah, he thinks that whatever program he was involved with did bizarre experiments. That's what he thinks. And he thinks that he was supposed to not remember any of this, and when the parasite issues caused brain surgery, the memories came back.
Jeez.
Yeah, and he ended up. There's a lot more to the story after he started socializing what he was experiencing. There were multiple attempts on his life that have been documented and investigated by real intelligence agencies. And he's like a serious dude, and he's doing his tell-all memoir. It's a really great book. It's almost done, and Simon Schuster's going to publish it next year.
So there's multiple attempts on his life because of which does he have an understanding? Like, was he threatened?
He thinks it's because what he was involved with was supposed to stay in the past. He wasn't supposed to remember it.
When he was a child?
Yeah. No one wants.
And so they want to kill him?
Essentially.
Wouldn't that make it even more suspicious?
Well, depends on how you're. Yeah. No, probably not.
Probably not, because they could just get away with it.
Yeah.
What kind of attempts on his life?
Directed energy weapons.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how?
The guy was having the actual symptoms of a directed energy weapon attack, and he knew what those circumstances were from his career. He knew these were symptoms of that, and a proper investigation was done by real authorities, and they found evidence of it, like etching in the windows and
etching in the windows.
If a directed energy weapon goes through glass, it causes etching in the windows.
So they were literally physically targeting him with something from a drone, from space.
Who knows? I mean, these are like the list of questions that the story.
So the idea is like, let's just give this guy cancer, or just nuke him and take him out.
That's what it seems. Yeah.
Because he's talking too much about this program.
That's what it seems.
And then if it comes out, we're fucked.
Yeah, that's what it seems.
Because probably what they did is highly illegal, especially if they did it to a child.
Well, I don't think you can legally enlist in the military when you're,
also
13.
He probably wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
And so if they do have someone sort of an ability to erase memory.
That's what it would seem. Which also lines up with, I talked to, one of the stories I left out of the film, I talked to the base commander from Rendlesham, the joint US-UK base in the UK, where there was a huge UAP event in the 80s. And the base commander told me on the record, on camera, that the day after the event, an airplane landed, people from the CIA and Air Force intelligence showed up with authority and demanded to speak to the witnesses, and the base commander was told to leave the room. He didn't know until years later that all those servicemen that experienced this, they were all told to share the details, and they were given a drug. I think it was called, is this correct? Sodium pentothal? Is that how you say it?
Pentothal?
Yeah,
That's the truth serum, right?
Yeah. And they were given that to share what they experienced, and then they were all asked if they had ever been hypnotized, and someone was there who hypnotized them. As crazy as that sounds.
Wow.
This is the base commander telling me this on camera to my face. He also said they took away something in crates the next day on this airplane, and he never got clarity on what it was. And the third thing that he revealed that I don't think anyone's ever talked about with Rendlesham is he revealed that the day after the event, he went and talked to the people in the communications room, the old school like wires in the wall and stuff, and the head of the communications on the base told him that the entire night of the event, while he was out in the woods dealing with the event, the whole base was on communication lockdown. All lines were shut down except the direct line between the base and the White House, which it's called, I believe, I don't want to mess this up, but I believe it's called flash override, which is only used for nuclear war or imminent threat of nuclear war.
So, I mean, there you have it. I tried to include the majority of the interviews and statements that are being made by congressmen, congresswomen, the filmmaker himself, David Grusch, Lou Elizondo, and, even James Clapper. Now, look, I know he's not the most trustworthy person in the world, but hey, these people are in the know. And is it possible that this president could be the president to finally come out and tell us the truth about our place in the world, our existence, non-human intelligence? So, if you like today's program, you made it to the end. Thank you. Please hit the like and subscribe. Until tomorrow. Peace.